You want to be impactful. But I want to show you a couple things. What am I trying to say here?
Speak up, be loud.
Not be loud, be heard. That microphone allows you, if you speak in this room without a mic, you'll be heard by 30 or 40 people, maybe 50. If you have that microphone, you can be heard by 500 or 5,000, because I want everyone to be heard. If you're not heard, you will create the next Donald Trump. If people don't feel heard, they get mad, and then they start to do things that are not necessarily good for others. And I'm trying to address that. So I love this. Does the frog live or die? Who here thinks the frog lives? Raise your hands. Who thinks the frog dies? Raise your hands. Okay, you're all pessimists. If you think the frog lives, please stand up. If you're standing right now, you are correct, but I want to know why. Why does the frog live?
Maybe a symbiotic relationship.
That's not correct. Why does the frog live? And if you get it wrong, you have to sit down.
It wouldn't put itself in danger if it didn't have trust.
Or maybe it's a dumb frog or can't see. Down. Why does the frog live?
The opportunity cost for the alligator isn't worth trying to capture the frog, so they trust each other.
The opportunity cost. Are you in business?
I'm an engineer.
Oh, God. Just sit down for that reason alone. Does the frog live or die?
The frog lives.
Why?
Because he has a reason to be there.
No, it could just be a dumb frog. Down. Why does the frog live?
It's Schrodinger's cat. We don't know. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Did you do drugs before you came here? Why does the frog live?
Is it a poisonous frog?
No. No one got it. I can't believe this. Why does the frog live?
The alligator full?
That's a good answer. That is a good answer. It's the wrong answer, but it's a good answer. Why does the frog live?
Alligators don't eat frogs.
They do eat frogs. Why does the frog live? I want to see who's smarter, the Republicans or the Democrats. Why does the frog live?
Something killed the alligator.
You're close. Why does the frog live? Yes.
Is the alligator already dead?
She got it. The alligator's dead. I asked you, does the frog live? It has nothing to do with the frog. You're giving me frog answers. Whether the frog lives or not has nothing to do with the frog and everything to do with the alligator. There's one thing that I need you to learn from this whole conversation. It's not what you say that matters, it's what people hear. When you're debating, when you're arguing, look them straight in the eye. I make eye contact and I don't look away, and it's hard. And by the way, one of my problems, and I need help, I really do, is that I look for the person who's most annoyed with me, and that's the person I stare at. So the whole room could be going like this and really into it, and I'm focused on the one individual that's giving me a hard time. Why is that?
I work a lot with juries, and we always went after that person. The 9 we've got, we don't focus on. We focus on the person we don't have, because the real closing argument takes place in the jury room, not in the courtroom. And so we go after that person, and if we can get them, then we know we're making progress. I don't want to preach to the choir. I want to preach to the people that don't agree with me and see if I can persuade them. So I assume that's why you focus on the person that you don't have, giving you minimal encouragers with everything you're saying.
So think about this. How often do you see a conservative who comes to your campus that you really don't want there? How often are you trying to move them over to your side versus to dismiss them or embarrass them, to debate them, not to change hearts or minds, but to embarrass? That doesn't win anybody over. College Democrats and college Republicans should be doing so much stuff together because you got one thing in common. You care about your country. You care about your country, don't you? You care about your country, don't you? Don't you realize you've got that in common? That you actually care about what happens to the future of America?
Can I ask a question before you move on?
Yes.
I do a lot of work with law enforcement, particularly with negotiators, hostage negotiators, that sort of thing. What do you think the number one objective is with an FBI negotiator if they're working with someone that's taken hostages? What do you suppose their number one objective is in establishing their relationship with the hostage taker? What do you think?
Preserve life.
Yeah, of course, they want people out. What do you think?
Understand their reasoning.
I'd say try to
humanize them in a way that like also connects them like with their family and their friends.
In a sense, some of that is right, but they will tell you this. They have never had a hostage taker surrender or release a hostage until that hostage taker believes the negotiator understands why they took those hostages to begin with. You don't have to agree with it. They have to know you understand why they did what they did. And that hostage taker is never releasing those hostages till he knows that that negotiator gets why he did that. And that's not happening on college campuses. They're not understanding why that person that they're objecting to being there feels the way they feel. I didn't say you have to agree with them, just that you understand why they're taking the position. You may think it's total crap, but you understand why they feel that way.
I'm going to ask Democrats, give me a word or phrase to describe Republicans. Start with the engineer. Word or phrase to describe Republicans.
Fiery.
Nationalist.
Emotional.
Responsible.
Conservative. Prejudiced.
Word or phrase to describe Democrats.
Sensitive. Emotional.
Naive.
Young.
Activist.
Censors.
When she says prejudice, anyone on this side, what's your reaction to that?
It's an assumption.
Do you think that it's an assumption that's deserved?
In the same way that I am prejudiced, she is equally as prejudiced.
That's a really strong thing to say. What was the word you used?
Censors. Censors.
How do you respond to what he said? Anybody here?
I think what happened in Florida just now is a good example where Disney spoke out against the Don't Say Gay bill, and the Florida legislature moved to take away Disney's special tax status. So that doesn't seem like Democrats censoring to me.
That's one of my biggest issues is like for example, Don't Say Gay isn't even really in the legislation. So it's just the hijacking of these narratives that aren't really entirely accurate that kind of stokes division in itself.
It's a really strong accusation.
How can it stow division when Don't Say Gay specifically is censoring certain information in elementary classrooms?
No, it's the bill is about limiting sexual education and sexual orientation education in the classroom. It's saying that it's the perspective that shouldn't be done in the classroom setting. If you can't teach religion in a public classroom setting, why should you be discussing sexual orientation?
You teach, elementary small children about a virgin birth in the Bible, and that has to do with sexuality.
If a public high school teacher or a professor at USC mentioned Christianity or invoked the virgin birth, I think the Democratic side would be upset with that and try to censor that and cancel them. I mean, they would probably not only be fired, but possibly sued.
But I'm not saying in a classroom setting, I'm saying at home. You're saying that, children are too underdeveloped to be able to understand these kinds of topics, and yet at home and at church, you're talking about these things.
If the state can't pick a side with religion, why is it, teaching kids something like this so young?
Going into the private life, and even back to your point, a lot of what is not even taught in the private life or in the home is about sexual orientation or understanding. You can't dismiss a child for knowing this at such a young age, or even letting them have that voice to have that come out at some point. And a lot of the time, sexual orientation, all that comes with sexual education, yes, partially is taught in the school, but a lot of it is already censored because of legislation.
I have a question for you guys. We don't start our times tables till we're in first grade. We don't start pre-algebra till we're in fifth grade. So why, if we already regulate bipartisan education topics, can we not regulate the ages that you are taught something as important as sexual orientation? We already regulate other subjects.
Because you can't regulate what's not there. The fact of the matter is that the American school system is so lacking in our sexual education programs in the first place that any removal of some sort of education is going to really impact students. I was able to learn about, healthy sexual relationships or healthy relationships dynamics. If I had learned that in school, I think it would have been a lot healthier for me than learning about it on the internet where that's unregulated and that's going to be unsafe. Even learning the vocabulary words for certain body parts can help children feel more empowered and confident in confronting sexual abusers or knowing, is this a safe touch? Is this not a safe touch? These are the kinds of things that I personally don't trust my fellow Americans to teach their children at the certain ages.